Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So imagine you are in a family and your brothers are, well, they are the success stories of the family. One of them has become a CEO of a major national corporation. And your other brother's also done very well. He is the chief directing officer of a major national nonprofit organization. And you are their sister. How do you compete? How do you stack up next to these two guys?
Be a good cook.
Be a good cook. No. Because we are talking about Miriam. Miriam. Who are her brothers?
Moses.
Moses. Moses and Aharon, right? So Moses is the head of the nation, and Aaron is, of course, head of the Levites and head of the priesthood, well, the head of the CEO and the nonprofit. And Miriam, you would think she would fade into the background. I mean, after all, she has no special commendation, no special remit within the nation. She doesn't seem to have a particular task or role. Yeah, she runs out and dances a little bit when we do Shirat Hayam and the Song of the Sea. But apart from that, well, really, does she measure up to her two brothers? Well, according to the Torah, she does. Because she is also called a Neviah. She is a prophetess. But now, you're scratching your head, I'm sure, saying, wait, where's her prophecy? I remember in the Torah where it says God talked to Moses, and I remember it also says sometimes God talked to Moses and Aaron. But where's Miriam getting her prophetic status from? Is this just because she's part of that family, she gets it automatically added? No. To understand it fully, we would have to dig into the textual sources, and I'd love to do that sometime. But for the moment, let us see that if we unwrap the Midrash that has to do with the beginning in this week's Torah portion of Shemot, of the slaying of the children, the boys of Israel. You all remember, and we'll talk about this in much more detail, that Pharaoh had grown afraid of the Israelites. And so eventually he settled on an edict that all of the new baby boys would be thrown into the river. And yet, it happens under those circumstances that two people, Amram and Yocheved, who were from the house of Levi, the parents of Moses, they get together and they have a boy. That boy becomes Moses, who is very cleverly put in the river, thus fulfilling the letter of the law. Nice malicious compliance, Yocheved. And he eventually, of course, becomes the one that will lead us out of Egypt. But that little ellipse, that little missing portion of these two people coming together begs for interpretation, which our ancestors provided. They said, nah, you see, what happened was they had to come together again. That Amram and Yocheved had been together before. After all, that's where Miriam came from, the older sister. But they had separated when Pharaoh made his decree. Because after all, if you know that if you have a baby boy, that the government is going to murder him, you might be a little hesitant to, get pregnant, because there's a 50% chance, more or less, that your baby is going to be killed upon birth. And that's the kind of thing that can really kill the mood and make a couple not want to be together. And that is what our tradition says indeed happened. That Amram had made the decision, no more kids, because they're killing all the boys. And little Miriam, well, she had a vision. She had a vision that a brother yet to be born to her parents would eventually save the people from the land of Egypt. But there's a problem. If her parents aren't together, no brother is going to get born. So she goes to her father and says, look, you're worse than Pharaoh. By the way, don't try this technique on your dad. It's not a great way to talk to your dad. You're worse than Pharaoh, not a good opener, but it works in the Midrash. It works in the Midrash because she says, you're worse than Pharaoh because Pharaoh has only decreed that the boys be killed. Your decision has decreed that all of our children no longer exist, that there is no future for any of us. You have done something worse than Pharaoh by separating from mom and by not allowing us to at least have the hope of redemption, have the hope that something will come that will redeem us from this whole situation. And Amram, in good fatherly fashion, says, you're right. You make a very good point, and then he comes back together with his wife Yocheved, and together, of course, they have Moses, who becomes, well, through many different twists and turns, the man that will eventually be the instrument of our salvation from the land of Egypt. That's not bad compared to Moses and Aaron. When you have somebody that young, who was looking out not just for her own family, but looking out for her entire nation, and who was willing to confront her parents when she felt that what they were doing was inappropriate, and willing to listen to the message of hope that God had given her, and said, you know what? This is pretty much the darkest place our people have ever been, and yet, with this glimpse of hope, I have something to hold on to, and I must share this with others to help make sure that they have hope too. Because if we do not act with hope, then we condemn ourselves certainly to our annihilation. It's a hard decision to make sometimes. Oftentimes it feels much easier to just give up. It feels much easier to despair, to look at the problems in the world, our community, wherever you are feeling most disappointed in life, and just say, you know what, forget it. It's not going to get better, can't get better, this is terrible, it's only going to get worse. What's the point of trying? What's the point of even hoping? We might as well just pack it in, right? No point in having a wife, no point in having a family, no point in doing anything fun. The world is in a catastrophe, and therefore, I'm done. I'm out, it's over. That is actually a very easy position to take. And Miriam understood that that was not where our people needed to be. Despite how horrible things were at that moment, despite the overwhelming probability that her parents would only feel more grief when their child was born, she recognized that it was only through facing the possibility of hope and acting as though it could come true that we would be able to get past, able indeed to find the solution that would lead us past the situation. So, it's easy to remember Moses, easy to remember Aaron, but remember Miriam as the one who never gave up hope and who inspired others at the worst times to do what was necessary, to do the hard thing, to act with hope, to act with courage. There is no hope without that bravery, and she showed it to us all. So remember Miriam the prophet.